spray a lot of bullets. And so therefore they become very deadly.
State and federal officials working together to crack down on illegal gun conversion devices called Glock switches.
Fox 25's David Chazanoff joins us live from the Oklahoma City Police Department. So David, what is their involvement in this?
Adam and Wendy, OKCPD is partnering with the U.S. agency or the U.S. Attorney of Federal Agency of Oklahoma to work on putting a solution to this problem.
A very serious and dangerous and emerging threat to our community.
U.S. Attorney Bob Traister is talking about machine gun conversion devices, or switches. It makes a semi-automatic weapon fully automatic, allowing it to shoot much faster.
It should scare everybody.
Sergeant Autumn Sheets says this year, Oklahoma City police have seen 9 incidents involving these devices.
We, as law enforcement and for the community, are incredibly concerned with the uptick in numbers, more than double from last year.
According to ATF Special Agent in Charge Jeff Boschek, switches are becoming more accessible than ever before.
You can print these on 3D printers in a matter of minutes, and we're seeing that all over the country. People are selling these on Instagram. I have a senior in high school, and he can go on Instagram or Snapchat in 30 seconds and find these things for sale.
Switches are illegal federally, but it's not in Oklahoma. That's where Traister comes into play.
We are targeting prosecutions of these switches to remove illegal machine guns off our streets.
This week, OKCPD officers will have access to 13 3-hour training sessions.
They need to be trained on what it is to look for, but also trained on the fact that it violates federal law.
And Traister says officers in El Reno and Lawton just went through this training a month ago. Reporting live in Oklahoma City, David Chazanoff, Fox 25 News.
All right, David, thank you. And taking a look at some recent cases involving Glock switches in Oklahoma, just last month, a Purcell man was sentenced to 65 months in federal prison after he was found with Glock switches. Officials say Michael Smith had a previous felony conviction, and federal search warrant was issued after probable cause was shown that he was in possession of ammunition. Well, during that search, agents found 2 machine gun conversion kits.
Man recently pled guilty to several charges in federal court after a robbery, police chase, and shooting here in Oklahoma City last December. One of those charges, unlawful possession of a machine gun. Police tell us that's because Charles Scott used a Glock switch on his gun. He fired at an officer while running from the scene of a robbery.
He had 2 firearms on him that we know of at that time. When he was leaving the store, an officer was arriving on scene. That suspect fired shots at the officer. Was able to get into a vehicle and drove off.
Officials say Scott discharged both firearms. One of them had been modified to operate as a machine gun. Scott faces up to life imprisonment and a fine of up to $750,000.
The number of crimes linked to Glock switches is rising across the country. Spotlight on America's Lisa Fletcher spoke with ATF officials about this concerning trend and brings us a closer look at how these dangerous devices work.
Gunfire raining down on a school and one of D.C.'s busiest streets. The shooter making this gunfire potentially even more lethal with a tiny piece of metal or plastic you can buy online in seconds that turns a handgun into a machine gun.
You know, the concern is that they're everywhere out there on the streets.
It's called a handgun conversion device, illegal and commonly known as a Glock switch, but it can be installed on many types of guns with devastating consequences. ATF Acting Special Agent in Charge Mike Waddell told us it is a terrifying trend.
We're starting to see a huge increase. Criminal elements are using them against other criminal elements, but also our law enforcement partners.
Body camera footage shows 2 officers in Texas serving a warrant.
It's Houston Police. Let's do this thing.
In a split second, the suspect hits them with a hail of gunfire from a handgun outfitted with a conversion device. One officer is killed, the other seriously wounded. In 2020, ATF seized more than 4,000 weapons with conversion devices. In just 1 year, that number increased by more than a third to nearly 6,000. These modified weapons have killed and injured dozens of people at a time in mere seconds in cities across the country. Sacramento, Fresno, Milwaukee, Detroit, and Houston, just some of the latest. In 2022, in the District of Columbia, a lone shooter who, according to ATF, had at least one weapon outfitted with a conversion device, plunged schools and a neighborhood into a terrifying lockdown for hours as he sprayed bullets from a fifth-floor apartment. 4 people were injured.
It increases that capability of that suspect, by, just the possession and the use of this, handgun conversion device.
In fact, it allows the shooter to fire up to 600 rounds from a handgun in 1 minute. We arranged a demonstration with DC's ATF experts. In less than 2 seconds, I fired 15 rounds from a 9mm handgun.
How easy is it to swap out for one of these switches?
It's a fairly easy process. So a matter of less than a minute, you can have one switched out and ready to utilize the firearm.
Firearms Enforcement Officer Nicholas Campbell explained how it works.
It's pushing down on your actual trigger bar, keeping it from resetting, and that's what's causing it to fire automatically.
We were able to find these illegal gun modifiers openly for sale for anywhere from $20 to $200 on multiple social media platforms, including Facebook, TikTok, and Telegram, all of which forbid weapons transactions. Waddell says it's no mystery who's making these purchases.
Typically what we find is that someone that's not going through the process to necessarily register a Glock switch or to make it legal, that they're using it for criminal or nefarious purposes.
For Spotlight on America, I'm Lisa Fletcher.
Let's take a look at more cases involving Glock switches across the country. The most recent incident happened earlier this month in Dallas when a police officer was shot in the leg. Now, police recently released this new body camera footage. They say this happened when officials went to arrest a man wanted for a recent murder. This video shows them breaking through the suspect's door and immediately being met with gunfire. Investigators say the suspect was found to have a Glock switch, which allowed him to fire 15 rounds at officers through the front door within seconds.
Several shootings in Washington are highlighting concerns over the Glock switch. Police in Tacoma say a Glock switch was used when a car full of teenagers shot at a police officer at random in a gas station parking lot. A Glock switch also used during a road rage shooting in the same area and in Seattle. Police confronted an armed robbery suspect armed with a Glock switch-equipped gun and an extended round magazine. Back in July, Seattle police said there were 18 shootings with 20 or more rounds fired in just 1 month.
My guess is if you had 18 in a year 10 years ago, that would have been unusual. I think 18 in a month is frightening.
ATF agents stress that nobody can legally possess one of these devices, and having it can be punished by up to 10 years in federal prison.
And that was your big story breakdown tonight. You can find more information about Project Switch Off and illegal gun conversion devices on OKCFox.com.
And if you missed any part of the big story breakdown, you find it all on our YouTube channel. Scan the QR code on your screen or search OKC Fox.